Thank you. Salam اشرف. Let me say, Salam Liberty. And let me say, Salam Iran. And we have the flags and we're going to wave them. We are Afrashi. I repeat, we are all Ashrafi because freedom is all of our freedoms and democracy belongs to us all. And most of all, that freedom and that respect and that good treatment belongs to those residents of Camp Ashraf and Camp Liberty. So we'll wave our flags again! Let me now do my duty and say on behalf of the UK political parties, and if I may say so, especially Lord Tony Clark, who has been with us for so long. We have many other members of the House of Lords. We have Ken, we have Brian, and we have the greatest aristocrat of them all. We also bring to you our lawyers, and our lawyers from the very highest level. I want you to say hello to Lucy Scott Moncrief, the President-elect of the Law Society. And she is supported by Professor Sarah Chandler and Malcolm Fowler. And we have a parliamentarian from Malta. Britain and Malta are very close indeed, and you know the island is called, has the Malta George Cross on its flag. Will you welcome parliamentarian Joseph Adami? There he is. Now I want to direct my remarks to the great and wonderful Mrs. Maryam Rajavi. For 3 decades, we have supported your valiant resistance to religious dictatorship. Today, I say on behalf of my colleagues, and I say with pride, that we will continue to support you and promise that we will be standing beside you when the final victory comes. Let me say to you that the storm of change in the Middle East is also a message to our own governments. It is time, too, for us to make a change, to change our 30-year-old policy towards the region and especially towards Iran. The West has reached an impasse with an Iranian regime which only talks in the language of terror and intimidation. A regime which derails nuclear discussion. A regime which has defied 58 condemnations by the United Nations over its human rights record. We have gone beyond all reasonable limits in tolerating this regime, and the result has been a terrible injustice. 120 martyrs, members and supporters of the Iranian opposition, have been executed and massacred, and we pay tribute to them. 3,400 of its members are in Camp Ashraf and Camp Liberty, and they have been suppressed at the behest of the Iranian mullahs through their proxy al-Maliki, and that must not be allowed to continue. It has been said by many, and some in my own parliament, that resistance, this resistance, doesn't have support in Iran. That is not true. You prove that's not true. Been true. 500,000 PMOI members demonstrated in Tehran as far back as June the 20th, 1981. Let us tell the world the PMOI is the opposition and the rightful government in Iran. Let me challenge the mullahs. Let me tell the regime, stop your torture, stop your repression, stop your executions just for one day, and you will then see the real support for opposition in Iran. You here today are the voice of the millions in Iran who cannot speak. And so I say to the UK government, to the US government, to the United Nations Security Council, listen to your voice, listen to your argument, listen to your desires, because within those desires lays a heart content and wishing for freedom and democracy as they all wish for. That is where we all actually are brothers and sisters under the skin. It's our freedom, our democracy that we're fighting for. You are the people suffering, but it's our cause just as much as your cause, and we join with you and we'll fight it to the end. So I say to our governments, your policy towards Iran has failed because you have not listened to the good people who wish they were in Iran now but sadly can't be living there. Members of the PMOI in exile. Sadly, you haven't listened when they raised all their concerns about Camp Liberty. You haven't listened when they raised their concerns about the treatment of people in Camp Ashraf. I therefore say to our governments, the United Nations, the European Council, to the British government and the American government, listen to the views of the real supporters of Iran. They're here in this hall, and the message should go out to them loud and clear. Let me call upon Mrs. Clinton to end the defiance of the State Department and delist the PMOI immediately. I was one of the 35 who fought for that delisting in my country. We are Democrats and freedom lovers. Show us you're the same, Mrs. Clinton. And finally, you'll be pleased to hear, finally, I urge the international community, especially the European Union, to recognize the National Council of Resistance of Iran and its president, Mrs. Rajavi, as the voice of the Iranian people. Act now. Act now, fellow freedom lovers and Democrats, parliamentarians of the Western world. Act now, so that we can start to atone for 3 decades of destructive mistakes in support of one of the darkest contemporary dictatorships in this world today. Act now in support of human rights. Act now for a free and democratic Iran. I say democracy with Mrs. Madam Rajavi. I say Iran will be free.